my name is Danielle Richards, and this is my persuasive speech. The trickling shelves of libraries are starting to become haunted with the removal of books with varying contents. Books give access to hundreds of thousands of imaginary worlds. A gateway that was once an open field is now being closed with the removal of books deemed as controversial. Former safe spaces for readers of all ages are beginning to become limited. While school libraries and schools should maintain a balance with providing effective educational materials, there is a huge question to how banning certain books and academic resources leads to the understanding and undermining of a student's intellectual freedom and limits a student's ability to see diverse experiences, seemingly pushing for a balance of protection from book censorship. With the banning of books, there is a restriction to the voices and thoughts of authors, limiting the intellectual growth of many individuals. I stand firmly on the belief that books should not be banned within schools. Books serve as a catalyst for intellectual freedom and are tools to teach critical thinking. Schools who limit literature are silencing the growth of minds beyond just the authors, but also the students. Today, I will highlight and speak of how banning books harms students and undermines their education. Curiosity and the want to expand your knowledge is a human trait. Many of the voices and ideas of authors have been stripped out of academic teachings. Books deemed as too provocative and controversial have been practically erased in the hands and on the hands of policymakers. Many historians and simple educators question if certain books should be banned from schools. Bottom line, the question of book censorship goes beyond the stories being told. It's a question about the erasement of the prior generation's traumas. Can things be viewed as bad simply be forcibly forgotten? Should there be a protection of intellectual freedoms for future generations? When you start a family, will they be able to access the same materials that you were taught? Books are tools for critical thinking and pushes for the advancement of one's mind. Many teachers have come out to voice their unrest specifically with the banning of books. Author/teacher Alyssa Nicoloni writes of how books, even those that are banned, are essential for learning and teaching within her article, Precious Knowledge, Using Banned Books to Engage in a Youth Lens. Especially books highlighting varying sexuality and races, serving as resources to students to feel seen. The complex ideas within books can help students feel more connected with their environment. Studies show how students who were not fluent in English garner more of an understanding of English through the books that they had access to. Take, for instance, The Hate That You Give, a radical book published in 2017, handled the themes of police brutality and systemic racism. Topics like these have become the harsh realities of many individuals of varying races. Critics spoke negatively about the author Angie Thomas's description of violence and anti-police rhetoric. There was a drastic push to get this book removed from schools and teaching. Schools should be able to establish age restrictions for certain materials viewed as graphic or handle mature themes. And parents tend to voice their concern with provocative or explicit materials being shown to their young child. Within this, there is no age requirement or limit to the traumas that children will face. Books that mention or hold mature themes also tie back to the originality and life story of characters and students. Books, like The Hate That You Give, mirror the lives that students are experiencing outside of their school walls. Removing a book such as The Hate That You Give and those with similar content denies students the ability to address social issues and minimize the experiences they face. Author Jay Rosick writes in his article, Banned Books, A Study of Censorship, how inside of schools, teachers and students come from various backgrounds and lives. Teachings of critical thinking benefits the students. Exposing them to controversial materials allows the students to understand issues with social justices and race. The ideas behind book censorship have been passed down and have been going on for decades and have rapidly gotten worse within the past years. Book bannings were used in the earliest ages of even American development to limit teachings and deemed as immoral or profane. The pushing for book banning is allowing for the elimination of history. Older generations are pushing for the erasure of certain materials that they were taught, citing how they push ideas of hate, while many coming from a white background deem this to be understood. Students of varying races live with their day-to-day lives, detailing the aspects and challenges regarding their race. Books with themes of similar stories in students of other races or even sexual preferences allows for a feeling of self-expression and understanding. Author Jay Strong speaks of the history of book censorship and what it led to within his article, Book Silence in American Literature. The new increase in book censorship can drastically get worse and more critical with more conservative ideas and lawmakers being put in government facilities. This is leading to an increase in banning certain books detailing race. The limitations within these books negatively affect students in their lives. The book, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, is a novel written detailing the fictional life of an African American woman following the Great Depression. While the book does challenge mature themes, it is a literary wonder. The book handles the minimization of marginalized groups, such as Black women during the time period, even handling the dangers of untreated mental illness, establishing a schizophrenic main character, which was unheard of at the time of it being written. This book has unfortunately been banned by a variety of schools, citing its violence or racially charged themes and its elements of sexual assault. The issues this book tackles are evident in our society, and the removal of said book denies students the ability to grapple with similar and the same issues. Schools were made to be a place for learning and creative freedom. Schools were never made to cater to one set of beliefs. Varying institutions try to remain diverse and should voice how literature of all versions allow for this. Books change the lives of readers, going beyond words on a paper. Simple literature can push for justice, even movements of equality. A book like The Diary of Anne Frank gives personal testimony of a traumatic event, the Holocaust. Lawmakers are going as far as attempting to ban this book, detailing it and describing it as controversial to the time period. A book like this goes beyond a simple narrative, but is the life of a young individual and humanizing a victim during a tragic situation. When we ban books like these, we deny ourselves access to humanity. Going beyond the details before us on a black and white page, we erase our values, throwing away the push for our own ideas and intellectual freedom. The debate within school censorship and banning books goes beyond the narratives written within papers. The banning of books is a reflection of the minimization of freedoms that many students are experiencing. The First Amendment right rallying for the freedom of speech does not withhold within the index of a book, limiting the perspective and diverse ideas of authors. While protecting students from overexposure to mature content is valid, the removing and erasure of books has affected policymakers. Many banned books empower students to have a wide range of understanding and separate themselves from just their life experiences. School libraries should remain a place of growth and intellectual freedom. Books should not be banned. Thank you.
Was that 2 minutes?
Slay.
Okay.
Can I